Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. I've stated many times before that I don't want to see politics during sporting events. I don't want to watch the NBA and be subject to leftist activist propaganda ahead of a game. One thing I definitely don't want is to be lectured on literally anything by frickin' LeBron James.
I speak from a very educated mind.
But at the same time, as I'm watching the UFC these days, I'm absolutely loving the political messaging there. Maybe it's because I agree with it, or maybe it's because the UFC or UFC fighters are promoting more of a counterculture political message. Maybe it's just refreshing to see something that's not hashtag Black Lives Matter or Donald Trump's a racist, F Trump, this, that, and the other. I think that plays a massive, massive role. Last week seeing Holly Holm say this.
Something that's been on my heart, and I feel like I have the platform to say it, I need to say it. I just feel it's really sad, all the sexualization of our children right now, and we need to protect them, whatever that may be. Let's protect the children, please. Do anything we can to help.
Well, it took a lot of courage, you know, it wasn't just the empty leftist mainstream approved thought or approved rhetoric. And maybe that's why it packed such a punch and it was so substantive. Well, back-to-back UFC events, back-to-back absolutely viral moments. And another, he actually said it moment, UFC legend Jorge Masvidal, Florida beast Jorge Masvidal, had the whole crowd chanting our favorite slogan with Donald Trump in the audience. Let's take a look and see what happened during the UFC event, and then let's get into some numbers like we usually do. The topic of this video, let's go Brandon. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with the clip itself.
I'm a huge fan, and I appreciate everything you've done.
I also want to say, greatest president in the history of the world, sitting right there. I love that guy. We also got the greatest governor of all time here in Florida. Let's keep Florida free, or red state, and let's take that. You know who? Let's go Brandon motherfucker power and replace him. If I can get it just one time. Let's go Brandon. Let's go Brandon. I'm out, y'all. 305 for life.
Did you see Joe Rogan's face? An absolutely amazing moment. And the most interesting part is that was Jorge Masvidal's retirement speech. He chose to take it in quite the interesting direction, but it's not really surprising. I mean, Jorge Masvidal, he's a known Trump supporter, he's very politically active, and quite vocal about his discontent with the Biden administration. And it seems as though the massive crowd in the audience feels a similar way. Leftoids, as usual, are coping and seething, and you know what? I don't blame him either. At the end of the day, I think they're jealous. A lot of leftoids have been posting this video with similar captions of Donald Trump doesn't look good, doesn't look happy.
And octagon side with us tonight, 45, President Donald Trump.
I see the clip, and I think Donald Trump looks great, especially in comparison to sleepy, creepy, piss-pants Biden. I think leftoids are actually secretly jealous. They're jealous that Donald Trump still has that star power. I mean, the crowd was going crazy. You think that ever happened with Joe Biden? Of course not. In fact, we know it would never happen with Joe Biden because we've seen when Joe Biden enters these events. It's mostly booze and chants of let's go Brandon. Donald Trump, on the other hand, commands respect and people love the guy. And this UFC event, in a certain way, kind of counteracts the most recent prevailing narrative about Donald Trump. We're supposed to believe that Donald Trump is angry, filled with angst, worried about his future, going down, the law is taking him down. The whole Trump machine is breaking down, but quite the opposite seems to be taking place. Donald Trump's popularity is skyrocketing. In fact, we've been covering the head-to-head 2024 hypothetical matchup. Joe Biden's been in a very slight lead in the polling aggregate, mostly because of the Susquehanna poll, which was a total outlier. But now post-indictment, take a look at the aggregate. Donald Trump is leading almost every single poll. In fact, Trump is winning in the most YouGov survey. That is freaking wild. And for those of you guys who have been following my polling analysis for the last 3.5 years, you know that that's absolutely crazy. And equally crazy, the Rasmussen poll has seemingly been completely flipped on its head. I mean, interestingly enough, Joe Biden's been actually doing great in Rasmussen polling recently. He was leading ahead of the Trump indictment by +3, and it's been totally flipped. Donald Trump's now leading with Rasmussen by 7 points. 47 points for the Doninator 45, and 40 points for sleepy, creepy, piss pants Biden. Things are getting real bad for the diaper-wearing president these days. The polling data's just not looking so good. This headline right over here says it all. CNN anchor is stunned when he sees Biden's polling numbers. Just take a look at this.
President Biden hasn't even formally announced his re-election yet, but we asked the American people if he deserves re-election, if he deserves a second term. 32%, just a third of Americans in this poll, John, say yes, Joe Biden deserves to be reelected. When we asked that back in December, it was up at 37%. So he's lost a little bit of ground here. And we've noticed what's driving that is young voters, liberals, some people that should be naturally in a D versus R world in Joe Biden's camp.
Less than a third of Americans surveyed want to see Joe Biden reelected. And that's a CNN poll, by the way, which tends to skew quite heavily towards the left. CNN polls tend to favor also the never-Trumper faction of the right. But even worse for sleepy, creepy, piss-pants Biden, his polling on the issues.
And then we looked at his overall approval on some of the major issues of the day. And I think what's interesting here is the economy, 37% approval, immigration, 35%. He's underperforming his overall job approval on a slew of issues. Only on the environment, at 46% approval, does he actually overperform that overall 42% job approval, John.
I mean, absolutely well and truly abysmal numbers. You know, we've been waiting for the Biden bounce back, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. He's still in the 30s when it comes to his approval rating on some of the most important issues. No matter how many times Joe Biden says, it's the greatest economy, Jack. Americans are doing better than ever. No matter how many times he says it, the American people just aren't buying it. He's in the freaking 30s on some of the most important issues. And the most important factor here is Donald Trump's popularity is surging. Like I've been saying, Democrats are playing a real risky game here. You know, their strategy of propping up Donald Trump, who they know is less favorable with independents than the Trump campaign would probably like, is not exactly the worst strategy. But on the back end, you gotta at least have a good candidate. You know, that strategy might work if Joe Biden was a decent president. But Joe Biden is the worst president in modern American history, and their strategy is to prop up Donald Trump, who is clearly a better option, to now, elevate him into martyr status. And I think it's going to backfire and backfire spectacularly. You know, in 2020, they had a recipe, they had a freaking, once a generation cocktail of crazy events going on, and they played the game and used it all to their advantage. In 2024, I don't know if we're going to see the same situation. And the option is going to be a geriatric diaper-wearing piss pants dunce versus the Doninator 45 in his freaking Rocky Balboa comeback, the underdog, with his grassroots movement being persecuted and subjugated by the corrupt Washington machine. Trump's got the lore, the background story, the track record, the experience, and now at this point, it's about sending a message to the corrupt uniparty, weaponizing and politicizing the justice system. I don't know, but it feels like the perfect storm in this UFC event. Feels like the first moment where confidence is really, really building. Trump is still the same superstar he always was. The people still love him. Of course, not all of them. There's equal amounts of people who hate him. But that's normal in politics. People are going to love you or people are going to hate you. But it feels almost like a repeat of 2016, where that Trump support and that Trump love is starting to really swell. And if I was a Democrat strategist, I would be my pants. That's pretty much all I got to say on that one. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.